Tyrannosaurus Rocks. I'm Dr. Lester S. Carboni.
And I'm Rick Majestic.
Rolling Stone has published its 500 greatest albums of all time for the 500th time.
And I think they finally got it right this time. There's some new surprises.
What might one be, Rick?
Well, for instance, there's The Feminine Complex, now at number 321, a truly great album.
The Feminine Complex is one of the best complexes in the whole Rolling Stone list. However, the Rolling Stone critics always pick Sgt. Pepper as number one, when in fact the number one Beatles album is The Beatles at Star Club Germany. This album is the number one Beatles album.
Not to be confused with the Beatles album number one, which is actually their second number one.
Their first number one was actually Please Please Me. Their eighth number one was Abbey Road, unless you count Yellow Submarine, which was actually half a Beatles album. It had the orchestral parts, Hey Jude. It's difficult to know how many, I don't know how many albums the Beatles actually made, 9.4 albums. This album is number one.
It was a lot of albums. One album that the Beatles did not make, but they might well have had they been female and Argentinian, is Las Mosquitas, now at number 121 on the Rolling Stone list.
Rolling Stone was wise to put Las Mosquitas at 121 on the Rolling Stone list because Las Mosquitas caused Las Mosquitas mania.
Everywhere they would play, they would be chased through the streets by screaming boys.
They had no respite from Las Mosquitas mania.
Now, my ESP tells me that you might have another album for us.
Clocking in at number 87 is one of the most exciting performers of the 60s, the amazing Kreskin. This was in the genre of hypnosis, which was huge. John Lennon himself came home one day and found a drawing that his son had made called...
That's right, it was called Eric in the Sky with Pearls.
Eric in the Sky with Pearls. And everyone realized that that stood for ESP. People all over the world were tuned in to the magic pendulum. And there was a chart on the back of the album that could show you how the pendulum would work. This wasn't just an album. It was a craft.
It was an experience, an extrasensory experience. I have to say, though, of all these albums, I think my own personal number one would be 12 Top Hits. This record has 12 hits performed by famous Hollywood voices, and because it has 12 hits, that makes it the greatest album of all time.
Hollywood voices are hard to beat. However, this album, 20 original hits of the 70s, has 8 more hits. This is the greatest album of all time because 20 hits is 20 more hits than Sgt. Pepper had, which had no hits. So this shouldn't be number one. This should be ahead of number one. This should be number 0.
But wait, now 0 is not greater than 1, though.
Well, it should be an integer. It should be -1.
It should be a count up. 500 should be the greatest album.
What we have to do is try to figure this out using the pendulum and see if we can move it back and forth.
I want to ask it where Yellow Submarine comes in.